Good morning, and welcome to today's webcast, Beauty and Personal Care, Transform Your Inventory Management. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thank you for viewing our webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls of the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
All right, with that, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters from Moss Adams, Jana Wright, partner, and Chris Millet, senior manager. Jana has practiced public accounting with Moss Adams since 2007. She's a firm's leader in beauty and personal care practice. Jana's specific experience includes management audit and review engagements, acquisition accounting, cash flow projection preparation, and evaluating internal control and financial reporting processes. She is also a firm's leader in the firm's mentor, recruiting, and inclusion and diversity programs. Chris has partnered with businesses, executives, and managers to help them reach personal and organizational goals for 25 years and currently leads Moss Adams' NetSuite solutions and client success team. With direct involvement in hundreds of system implementations, he has expertise in implementing and leading practice business process improvements and optimizations, accounting and reporting processes, financial planning, profit improvements, internal controls, and integrated IT systems. With that, I will turn it over to Jana to get us started.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our webcast. First off, I want to apologize for my voice and if I end up coughing. Unfortunately, I'm getting a cold, probably like many of you from being all together last week. But anyway, as Chad mentioned, my name is Jana Wright. I lead our firm's beauty and personal care practice. And before we get into the core content of inventory management, we'd like to share some high-level industry data with you. So this graph that you see right now represents the total global revenue year-to-date through September 2023. And it looks like we were landing at approximately $626 billion, which has exceeded last year's forecast of $589 billion. So great for us. We are expecting to see about 3.32 annual growth through 2028, which is slightly lower than last year's expectation. But again, the industry exceeded. And so let's all hope to do it again going into 2024. To bring it a little closer to home, the United States specifically comprises of $98 billion of the worldwide market, and the U.S. has an expected growth rate of 2.43%. The largest segment you can see here within the industry continues to be personal care, landing at $274 billion, of which the U.S. represents approximately 16.3, or roughly $44.7 billion of the market. Please note that personal care consists of hair care, shower bath, oral care, deodorant, shaving, and it's completely separate from skincare, which is represented by the green bar graph that you see, and that being the second largest segment of the market. Online sales will reach about 17.7% of total beauty and personal care sales by the end of the year. This is actually down compared to 25.4% in 2022, and this is due to being further out from the pandemic, things being open, consumers' preferences for omni-channel, which is partly driven by their continued desire for in-store discovery as well as trial products in specialty retail, grocery retail, and drugstores. So we will get into a little bit further of the segments. This is just showing kind of like a growth chart. So we'll go through the biggest categories. Again, personal care being the largest, which is just slightly down from 45% to 44% of the total revenue. Most of personal care is generated in the US and is expected to grow about 3.1%. Skincare, again, being the second largest category, is slightly up 2% from 27 to 29% of the total market revenue. Non-luxury skincare is consistent, holding at about 72% of those sales. And then again, US continues to generate the most revenue for this category. And the largest category within skincare is facial. So for cosmetics, slightly down. And when you hear me say slightly down for these categories, it's mostly because the skincare category has taken more of the allocated revenue. But cosmetics specifically has the largest expected growth rate, around 4.3% of all the categories. And lip exploded in 2022. And face, eyes, lips continue to be the top generators for cosmetics. Fragrances, same thing, just slightly down as a whole of the market revenue. But it did increase year over year by 9% in revenue dollars. So I think, that shows, again, everything opening up and us being together and wanting to smell good. So all good things. Our industry is doing really well. You will notice that I only have 4 boxes up here, and there's one more category that has a huge spike, and this is the beauty tech. So we know there's been a lot of advancements ranging from personalized skincare solutions, virtual makeup try-on experiences, AI-driven beauty recommendations. And so, of course, during the pandemic in 2020, you see that huge spike and then the drop-off in 2021 as we all opened up. But as 2023 came around, we started to see positive growth again and expected to have that continual growth in line with the other market segments. So went through that really fast. And now that we've provided that overview of the industry, I'll pass on the mic to Chris to discuss what you're really here for. So business challenges and inventory management.
Great, thanks, Jana. And it's always interesting to see the overview of where we are with some of the different market segments and the health and personal care space for sure. And really what we're here to talk about today, as Jana mentioned, was one of the biggest challenges. You see a lot of dollars on some of the previous slides, billions and billions of dollars globally, here in the US specifically. And one of the largest challenges that we see when we're talking with clients and just out there in the marketplace, and really as we were coming together as a team to say, hey, what would be worthwhile to do a presentation on is challenges around inventory management. And inventory management, a lot of people think about that as where's my stuff at, right? Where is it? How much do I have? Which is an important part of inventory management. But really what we're really talking about is the management of that asset, right? Generally speaking, your inventory in most beauty and personal care companies, just retail in general, any omni-channel organization, your inventory is going to be one of the largest assets on your balance sheet, right? So how are we going to be able to take the investment that we've made in that inventory and turn that into profitable dollars, right? Where are things and how many do I have of those things is an important aspect to that, obviously in inventory tracking, but it's really a larger topic than just that, right? And so as we look at some of the challenges and solutions around inventory management that we see, that we talk to clients about every single day, one of the biggest things that we are talking about is either the lack of or the underdevelopment of your technology stack or technology solutions, right? And so some of the challenges that we see in there, first and foremost, are things around item management. So the challenges are going to be difficulties around attaining inventory positioning for given products across your given locations, whether that be all of your distribution locations, if you have brick and mortar locations, et cetera. And then how does that relate to your e-commerce business channel as well? So that attributes to things like lack of visibility and to profitability by SKU, style, any sort of merchandising hierarchy at all. And then what you were really looking for in a solution there is a unified inventory visibility across your locations. Things like automated reporting for profitability by SKU and style and that merchandise hierarchy. And then we look at things around price management, right? So again, this lends to my comment about this is just not about where things are and how many do I have, but how am I really managing that asset? How am I strategically pricing my items, and what information am I using to make those decisions, right? So those are the challenges that we see, managing pricing to accommodate for specific channels or even marking down things. And that's one of the biggest things that we see in any inventory management is when do I need to start marking things down to move them? It's kind of the old winners and losers perspective, right? Everybody is I've been doing this for a long time, and one of the old adages that we always hear is the old 80-20 rule, right? So 20% of your inventory makes 80% of your profit, and vice versa. So you're already behind the 8 ball here when you go in and make that inventory investment, because out of the gate at least 80% of your inventory is only going to attribute to 20% of your profit dollars, right? So we have to have a system there that's going to be able to manage that for us and make things easier to make decisions faster around managing that inventory, okay? So again, solutions for that, and you'll hear this a lot, centralized locations, centralized systems for channel-specific pricing and markdowns, where the system's going to track all that for you. Some of the other challenges that we see are attribution challenges. So we don't have a single system of record that ties our accounting to our inventory, to our order management, et cetera. So we need a single system of truth, a source of truth to give us that information from one place. And then lastly, one thing that we see all the time, particularly in e-commerce or omni-channel environments, is those integration challenges. So you have your e-commerce marketplaces, you have your 3PLs, you have all of your different systems that you might use, your point of sale systems that you might use, that are all putting demands on your inventory management systems. And so, the solution to that is to have a platform that accommodates, that can be your single source of truth for all of the different systems that you might want to integrate with. So some additional challenges that we see on this is over inventory visibility. So I touched on this earlier. That's what a lot of people think of when we talk about inventory management, is where is my stuff and how much do I have? And really, we do see those challenges quite a bit with no real-time visibility into stocking levels, which attributes to things like stockouts or oversupply, which can be almost more detrimental than stockouts, right? So again, a real-time solution that's going to track all that inventory management in a timely way so we can make decisions faster. Inventory profitability, which is really what we're trying to get to here, right? What's our return on investment from that inventory asset, right? That's one of the main things. I don't know what my real cost of goods is. I don't know what my carrying costs are, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's where we have to look at solutions that are going to be able to give us really what we refer to as an item 360, right? It gives us a well-rounded viewpoint of all the different inputs and outputs that can come into the profitability of our inventory. Tracking and control challenges. A lot of the people we talk to have manual or disconnected applications, which we'll see some examples of that here in a few minutes, which really contributes to inefficient processes. We really want to have built-in tracking and reminders and a consistent application we're going to get our information from. And I mentioned this already, but overstocked inventory. So there's really a little ability to determine when those markdown candidates should be applied to, and really we have no way to really track those overstocks. Okay. So when we start really looking at some of the existing system landscapes out there, one common example is what I have here, right? So we have lots of people that we talk to that have a website, some sort of e-commerce platform, so to speak. A very common one that you may have seen out there, Shopify, is probably one of the most well-used website engines that we see out there. You may have a sales tax solution like Avalara and some sort of payment processing solution like authorize.net. And so in many cases, what we have is we will have that website. It will be connected through some sort of system integration to a WMS system, a shipping system, such as ShipStation, that may even be used by a third-party logistics company or 3PL. But what we really see is a disconnect between that e-commerce platform, the 3PL or the distribution network, and your accounting system and inventory management systems. So as you can see here by the example, that's usually either a manual or some sort of CSV import process that we see that's really just unwieldy. It's not scalable. It's a situation where we have untimely information because it just takes a lot of work to update our systems in this particular example. And we're just not able to manage our inventory in a reasonable way and actually get accurate information. So this kind of situation here is where we do see a lot of those stockouts. We see, we're not getting updated information to our Shopify platform. We're not getting information into our inventory management or ordering system or to our 3PL so that we have updated quantities in stock so we can really get those proper inventory turns and really focus on that 20% of that inventory that really makes us those 80% profitability dollars. Okay, so this is a very common system landscape that we see that gets brought to us quite frequently. Okay, so what do we do, right? So we have these disparate systems, they're disconnected, we're getting untimely information, we're not able to make decisions quickly. And so one of the main things, and I touched on this in our challenges and solutions section, is one of the main things we want to look at is finding a single source of truth, right? So we need to have a system that gives us a single data source that can take inputs from lots of different areas of your business that might affect your inventory, right? So we could have inventory inputs from our CRM, right? So we may have some demand, some opportunity demands that may be entered in through our CRM system that we want to be aware of so that we have proper inventory levels in stock. We understand what those market changes may be happening from a dollars and cents standpoint, right? Obviously, we have our e-commerce platform, which we touched on the last couple of slides here. That's going to be probably one of the biggest inputs and drivers from a demand standpoint into our inventory management process. Obviously, all our logistics, right? Those could be our third-party providers, our 3PLs. If we could be running our own distribution centers, we're going to be dealing with suppliers. It could be domestic, overseas suppliers. There's a lot of different variables that come in here that we're going to need to understand what those impacts are on our inventory management process. Order management, that's all about us taking in orders from our direct-to-consumer customers, maybe our B2B customers, maybe we do some other wholesale channels. We have our brick-and-mortar locations, a true omni-channel experience there. All that order management is going to create demand on that inventory. So that all circles up to our inventory management area here. And then lastly, how does that impact our financials, right? And that's ultimately what we're trying to get to at the end of each month, is looking and see what that bottom line is and how did we manage our inventory and how did that affect what that bottom line profitability is. So takeaway from this particular slide is that single source of truth. We want to make sure that we have a system in place that we're not getting different bits of information around what's going on with our inventory management from different sources. We want everything running through that single source of truth. So here at Moss Adams, our preferred ERP partner is NetSuite or Oracle NetSuite. You can see that's here at the center or the heart of our diagram here. But really, NetSuite is just an example. Really what we're talking about here again is using that hub as your single source of truth that can accept the inputs from a lot of these different systems that we see out there being used, from an e-commerce perspective, a B2B perspective, your various marketplaces such as Amazon, even Walmart, so forth and so on. Any sort of concession management that we need to do, returns, if we're doing any rebate management or a deduction management, those different types of things, we need to understand all of that. Our point of sale systems from our retail stores. And of course, how is that information being interacted with our WMS system or a 3PL, right? We need to be able to obviously share a lot of this input, all these demands and constraints on our inventory management process. We need to be able to share that and share consistent information with the 3PL, and then get information back from those distribution channels into our hub system here in order to share that information back with, say, our e-commerce platform. One of the common things that we'll talk about here in a few minutes is how do I make my website, whether it's being Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever you choose to use, how do I make sure that has consistent item availability information that's coming from my 3PL, and I'm also having that same information so my people that are working in my ERP system can see that same information, right? And then lastly here, we also touch on product lifecycle management products as well. A lot of people do initial design, or they build different products, obviously build the materials to make different products, those different types of things, and how is that going to be fed into your operational procurement and production systems as well. Okay? So again, main takeaway here is having that single source of truth, that main hub that can accept all of the inputs from your various omni-channel sources and can push those inputs out to your distribution channels. Okay. So we saw the example of what we normally see, or what we consistently see out in when people come to us with some of their inventory challenges in that integrated or lack thereof system landscape. And so what we normally work with folks on to gain a consistent level and gain that single source of truth is an integrated solution landscape. Okay, so this is just an example. We'll look at some other examples here. So you still see kind of on the front end here, we have our e-commerce side of things with the Shopifys and the Avaleras or the Stripes of the world. Down below that, we're going to see our different marketplaces with Amazon, eBay, Walmart.com, etc. And so what we're going to see now is a consistency around a direct system-to-system integration. So one of the leading players in that area is Celigo. You probably have heard of them if you're in the technology space at all, but Celigo essentially is an integration hub. And what it can do is essentially it will take inputs from various sources, whether it be marketplace sources, whether it be your e-commerce sources, so forth and so on, and it will integrate all that information in a real-time way into your inventory management and financial management system. In this case here, we have Oracle NetSuite, okay? And so that system will be your source of truth for all of your financials, your order management, your procurement, inventory management. You can use it for WMS. All of your CRM and all of your BI and analytics can be generated from that single source of truth. And then lastly here, you see ShipStation off to the side here. And that that can be your shipping platform and or your WMS platform, which has direct connections or direct integrations with your ERP platform as well for the 3PL, okay? What you're not gonna see here are these manual or CSV imports, right? So those are eliminated in this example because we need our information in as real time as possible so we can make those decisions around inventory management. And so again, as you're going to see this consistently in all of the different areas of the presentation is really going to be that single source of truth where information from your various inventory demands are going to be coming in to your main hub here. And then that main hub can distribute that information out to your distribution channels, and then can accept information back from those distribution channels to your e-commerce and marketplace platforms. Okay. So these are just some examples that we see out there. We encounter many different systems every day. There's tons of systems out there that you can use for e-commerce. And these are just some of the examples. We have things like RF Smart, which is a WMS, warehouse management system. High Jump is along that same vein. Lots of different shipping options here that we see out in the marketplace with ShipHawk, PaceJet, etc. WooCommerce is another popular e-commerce platform aside from Shopify, and just some of the other things that we see out there. And again, when you have that a single source of truth system that has an integrated data platform and is able to connect with a lot of these different systems, again, we're running all of this information, whether it be specific item and inventory quantity information, that's just one thing, but again, all of our demand as well as all of our supply inputs and outputs into that same system so we can make those decisions in a timely way. So one other area that we see quite frequently in the beauty and personal care space is these B2B wholesale relationships that we have, with any of those larger customers that have EDI requirements, so that they are sending your orders in through EDI, which is electronic data interface, if you're unfamiliar. And really what this diagram is showing, that order to cash process, right? They're going to be sending you in an order. You're going to be accepting that order. And then you're going to be starting to fulfill that order in whatever means you need to, whether that be you're having to procure additional products or make products, or maybe you have some inventory already on hand that's been allocated for that particular channel or that customer. But all of that can be facilitated in an automated way through EDI. Okay. And so essentially, all those transactions, communications, again, are coming through your single source of truth. So those orders, again, are created, in this case, in NetSuite or your ERP. They're going to be validated. They're going to be communicated to your trading partner through some electronic documents. You can see down here, you may be familiar with these document terms: 856 advanced shipping notices, 810 invoices, and of course, payment advice can all be done through EDI, okay? And so what this really does is it eliminates this need to do these things manually. So a lot of customers that we talk to these days, they are receiving these orders in, and they may even be using the partner's portal to either see those orders or even enter in information against those orders, but it's all being either done manually, or it may be done through a CSV import-export process, something like that. But what you're able to do with an integrated system is eliminate all of that manual process, which will take you all the way from the gathering of an initial order all the way through fulfillment of that order, and then even collection of invoicing, and then collection of payment. So it just increases that total order to cash time frame. So again, we're getting those inventory turns faster, it decreases that time frame. And so we're actually getting to a point where where in many cases, we should be able to pay for our inventory with our customers' money at this point, okay? So that's one aspect of that order to cash EDI process. And then the other side of this is going to be using EDI for suppliers as well. So this is where we may receive those orders. We're going to receive all those different demand sources from our wholesale suppliers, our e-commerce, or our marketplaces, and we need to have a system that's going to allow us to manage all that information so that we can, through automation, be able to transmit our needs or our demand to our suppliers, right? So we want to have a system that gives us the ability to create those purchase orders automatically against demand or supply plans that are validated, and then have those purchase orders go out through electronic interface with our suppliers. Now, not all suppliers are at the level where they can accept this, but if you do have suppliers that do accept EDI, it's definitely a more efficient way to go than even emailing POs out to suppliers. But again, on our diagram here, we have NetSuite on the side here. We're going to be generating our POs. Those POs can get sent through, again, this is an EDI, electronic document form. It's called an 850 outgoing PO. That gets pushed through our EDI service provider. So on our previous screen, we saw TrueCommerce. There's also SPS Commerce, which are very common platforms for providing EDI services. And again, those EDI services can be extended and have those sent specifically to, obviously, vendors, manufacturers, any other trading partners, so forth and so on. And on the backside, from an accounts payable standpoint, all of that can be transmitted through the EDI provider as well with your supplier. So, both from an order to cash standpoint, as well as a what we call procure to pay, or a purchasing or operational purchasing standpoint, your entire process can be automated, right? So we're not having to look at emails or wait for emails or have that process be monitored manually. It can be in an automated way, which again obviously increases or decreases the amount of time that we're having to spend monitoring our inventory management process. So how does that overall affect your inventory management within your single source of truth here? Well, first and foremost, I mentioned this before, we're able to get what we call an item 360, right? So that provides us with various dashboards that we can look at, which really gives us visibility into the inventory lifecycle. So whether that be specific reporting that we're looking to get out of the system, but we're really able to get a complete transactional history and really an audit trail at an item by item level. So when we're trying to manage that top 20% winners of inventory that we really want to focus on, it's very easy for us to pinpoint what that looks like, okay? Obviously, when we're using a single source of truth to be able to manage our locations and visibility in those locations, we're able to manage multiple locations and virtual inventory locations. So in many cases, you may be tracking things, say, on the water, right? You may have to take ownership of products as it's shipped from overseas, but I want to be able to track what I have coming, right? And I want to see how that's going to affect all the supply and demand parameters that I have in my system. So that would be a virtual location. You physically don't have the product, you can't go touch it and feel it, but you want to know where it is, right? So that could be an example of a virtual location. When you get into things around WMS, we can get into specific bin management and location. Again, this is where are my things, how many do I have, etc. Obviously, those are important things to understand. But what that also allows us to do is to schedule and execute a consistent cycle counts. Now, you may be in a situation where you're not managing your own distribution center. Many cases, and most cases these days, people are using 3PLs, third-party providers, but we still want to understand what those changes in inventory are. They should have their own inventory cycle count process that they go through, where they're counting your items, whether that be an Amazon fulfillment center or another third-party provider. But we need to understand what those adjustments are in a timely way, at least daily, right? Having those adjustments come into our single source of truth at least daily, so that we can understand what the constraints are going to be moving forward. Okay, and of course, if you're running your own distribution center, then you do want to have those consistent cycle count operations set up, generally using a mobile device process or an RFID process to count your inventory. Okay. And then what does that really all translate into? All of this transactional history, all of our inventory statuses, cycle counting, etc. that all comes into, you know, what are our replenishment needs, right? So that's really what we're trying to understand ultimately, you know, so we don't get those stock outs or overstock situations. But all of these different inputs, as you can see, will flow into the decision-making process around what your system is going to advise you to do moving forward around your operational procurement. Okay. So on our last few slides here that we have, just some of the reporting dashboards, reminders, KPIs that you should expect to see out of a leading inventory management system. So we've talked about inventory profitability. You know, that's going to be first and foremost. You know, cash is king in pretty much any business I've ever worked with in the 25 years of doing this. And so we talked about how your inventory asset is usually the largest asset on your balance sheet. You usually have much more in inventory on your balance sheet than you have in your bank account. And so we want to make sure that we're moving as many dollars out of that inventory asset into your bank account is really what we're trying to do. So that's where inventory profitability comes down to. But, and I touched on this before, what a lot of these reports and KPIs will allow you to do is, if we're really getting things humming here, specifically in the realm of inventory turnover, is we should be able to get to the point where if we're able to reduce the time cycle, the life cycle between the time we actually have to replenish our inventory and the time that we're actually selling that inventory, particularly from that top 20% of our inventory, is we should be able to be using our customers' dollars to pay for our inventory, right? And that's really what a finely tuned inventory management system will allow you to do. So that even that investment that you're seeing on that balance sheet is paid for before it actually hits your cash flow and creates a cash flow constraint to you. Okay. So some of the other reports that we see on here, obviously our inventory status is very important. Physical inventory processes, inventory valuation, inventory revenue. You know, we need to understand what we have on back order. It seems to be a pretty straightforward one here, but I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people that said, I really don't know what is already coming. I mean, I don't have that input into my my demand supply process. Things like inventory activity detail, items pending fulfillment, transfers. You know, if I have multiple locations that I'm managing, you know, what is in transit between those different locations? Am I needing to replenish you know, a forward fulfillment center from a bulk stock location? All those things need to be accounted for. And of course, those things that can affect the movement of our inventory are things like pricing. You know, being able to get automated price alerts. You know, when do I need to mark things down? When should I, you know, go ahead and put that, you know, that flash sale on my website so I can move this stuff out of the way, so I can turn that investment into reasonable cash as fast as I possibly can, right? And what things go into that, other things, item availability, sales history, things like vendor rank. You know, when we're talking about inventory management, we're really talking about supply chain management. What vendors are actually able to get us our stuff more quickly, right? That's one other thing that you should look at when you're looking at this single source of truth is, does my system have the ability to create a vendor scorecard? You know, from the time that I place an order to the time that I actually get my stuff, what does that look like? And can I rank my vendors against each other for those that I order similar products from, right? Gross profit by item, sales by item, overstock items, obviously that all plays into it. But where's that, all these inventory reports flow into and relate to other departments in my organization? You know, we look at things around cost accounting. We can look at things around production variances by item, purchase price variances, and if we're using a standard cost methodology of costing, what do those cost variances look like, and how does that affect my overall inventory asset management? Okay. And we've talked about this quite a bit already, but really we want to have a proper demand planning process in place to affect our operational procurement. looking at all of our demand history by item on an item-by-item basis, and being able to push that out to different time horizons. What was it 6 months ago? What was it a year ago? What was it the last 90 days? So I can look at it from different aspects and be able to create item demand plans by item, right? And then do some analysis around, what does my demand forecast versus actual look like? And how can I make those adjustments? How can I just adjust to different market demands? Okay. And just a few others that we have here. Inventory turns we talked about already. Aging, time to ship. How long does it take us to actually get a product out our doors from the time that we receive an order? Discount rates per order. Are we having to discount more on certain items than others? Gross margin by item. And a lot of these, I'm sure a lot of you guys track already, but it may be being done in a manual way. You may be dumping everything into a bunch of spreadsheets and having to do a bunch of calculations, but you should be you don't have a system that will do this in an automated way for you so you can make those decisions more quickly. This is what you should really be looking at to really take your inventory management to the next level. So with that, that's what I have for today. So hopefully everybody found it informative, and I will turn it back over to Jana to close us out.
Thank you, Chris. We are aware that was a lot of information and can be overwhelming, but we are here to help. And as we head into the holiday season, we hope all goes well for you and that you are keeping busy. So that means a lot of sales generation. So please make note and take a screenshot if you can of our contact information shown here. These are some of our beauty and personal care team members and some of the industry trade involvements that we're in. So we are here as a resource for you, happy to assist. And thank you all again for attending our webcast.
Great. Thank you, Jana and Chris, for a great presentation today. If we didn't have time to answer your questions, we'll do our best to follow up with you after the webcast. Here is a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete this as your feedback is very important to us. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next time.